So this is our second horror movie with Kyle Gallner in a truck.
Yeah, and a follow-up with a Kyle Gallner horror film from a couple years back that we watched on this very show. You can find that episode.
Yeah. Stranger Darling. There is a connection, just similarities between Strange Darling and the beginning of this one. Great intro. Not so much a great intro for us, but Smile too.
Yeah, definitely.
Let's talk about it.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the show. I'm one of your hosts, Kyle Goethe from GoatFromReviews.com.
Hey, I'm Nick from the St. Paul Filmcast. Thanks for finding us. Thanks for watching. For our loyal fans, thank you for continuing to support the show. Another way to support the show, and you know it, you can join our Patreon. Join our Patreon to get some great content, great deals, and an opportunity to tell us what movies we could review for a future episode, with, of course, a shout-out to you as well. Kyle and I are members of the Minnesota Film Critics Alliance. Check out their webpage for critics' reviews as well as ours. Today we're talking about another horror movie. It's been a great year for horror movies, I would say. Smile 2. What's going on as if we didn't know?
So picking up just days after the events of the first film, we follow Sky Riley, a pop superstar who stepped away from the limelight after a drug-fueled car wreck changed her life forever. Clean now but struggling, the curse is transferred to her from her dealer, and now she cannot discover if the smiling people around her are fans or something worse.
So my first impression after seeing this, if you really like the first one and how it played out, you thoroughly will enjoy the second one. I've been balancing, maybe I like the second one better than the first one. There's some things, you have a lot of world building for the first one. This one, you don't have to do so much, so that's what's great about sequels. You can just jump into them.
Yeah.
And this one literally jumps into it.
Yeah, and I always love when a sequel picks up, at least with some connective tissue to the previous film.
That's a thin thread of a connection.
Yeah, but we get to see the through line. We get to see Kyle Gallner was the one who caught it from Sosie Bacon's character in the first film, so then we pick up with him 6 days later, and it's a continue. I appreciate that. When you look at some of these, and this is of course a broad scheme thing of like the Howling sequels, the Children of the Corn sequels, they're just, hey, another one of these things. I like that this one is a solid continuation. It opens up with a great oneer, which was probably stitched together, I assume, because it's a really well done oneer.
Yeah, even the Burning Man, you're like, what's going on?
Oh yeah,
very surreal, but then it gets context. Like, oh, that's right, I'm into this world of a smile, this cosmic virus parasitic thing that hallucinates you in your mind and everything.
That was a good reminder actually for me, because I haven't seen the first one in a while, and so having seen that Burning Man actually is a good reminder of like, oh yeah, that's what it does to you. Like it kind of like reformed my brain around what I was going to see
your brain.
again.
Yeah, but also a parasite doesn't mind. A parasite always worried about its host surviving. This parasite doesn't care.
No, as long as there's another place to jump to on the string,
Right. So you got a lot of the increments that I really enjoy with horror movies. You get a good formula of jump scares. You get this kind of schematic, the world kind of even foreboding. You get this uneasiness, this person that obviously something's wrong, but nobody believes me. Mm-hmm. I'm not crazy. You're all crazy, but you were crazy. This play on craziness. Not to mention, we're going the crucible of this pop star. You feel for this person.
Yeah, it's a really nice way, again, how the first film kind of deals with kind of the trauma of living with with living through the death of a loved one. Yeah. This film deals with trauma seen through the lens of fame, addiction, and redemption, also mistakes that you made that caused the deaths of other ones. So again, it kind of builds upon that theme. I think the big thing about Smile 2 is it's more of the same, but there are things that it does better than the first, and there are things it does worse than the first. And I think one of the things, for example, that I think it does worse than the first, I think the pacing is a little bit off on this one. Because it is telling a fairly traditional story, I don't feel like coming off of the first movie and kind of replaying a lot of the similar beats, does it need to be 2 hours and 10 minutes long? I don't think so.
And I would say, and I have my critique for most films of 2024, doesn't really stick the landing for me. I understand what you want to do with the ending. The ending should have been about 5 minutes afterwards. In fact, you didn't even really have to show it. You could just show the reaction. We would kind of fill in our minds what's going on. And
yeah. Well, and again, coming back to it, it's similar in some ways in how its finale is reflected upon the first film, but it's also, I'm pretty sure that the creature effects this time around were CG. They just looked way too glossy, and maybe that was because of where they were.
A little too obvious with the CG, yeah.
So again, it doesn't do that as well. And again, that's my favorite part of the first film is that creature effect, because you know me and creature effects. But I appreciate that it's kind of the most obvious ending, and yet I didn't really see it coming at the same time.
Right, but I like to play when it becomes almost almost like it's borrowing from Suspiria a little bit of the dance sequence, the dancers. That's my favorite part of the dancers. You know, it's almost like, you know, the weeping angels from Doctor Who. You turn away, they come closer. You have to keep looking at them, they won't move, but they occasionally move. But I do like that component. I do like the jump scares. I knew they're coming. And I liked a little bit of the acting for it. Naomi Scott, right?
Yeah, Naomi Scott, she was in Aladdin. Yeah. She played Princess Jasmine. And I think Aladdin is probably the best of the live action adaptations of animated Disney films. And part of it is because she's really good in that film. And even the original song she sings in that film, she does a great job with it. I think this movie succeeds because of Naomi Scott. I think because so much of it hinges, I think more so than even Sosie Bacon's character in the first film, where she's surrounded by some other...
Well, she had that very doughy eye look, a very almost being sacrificed kind of this.
Yeah, but I think like her interactions with Kyle Gallner and stuff, like they kind of uplift each other in that film. Naomi Scott has to do a lot of the heavy lifting in this film on her own. It's a lot of scenes by herself.
That's a lot of exerting exercise. Like I said, I know a lot of actresses who like to do horror movies because it's almost like going to gym class. You do your running, you do your screaming, you do your physical.
You do your dancing.
You do your dancing. You get it all out and you go home and you're tired. But this, she's doing it. She's just screaming it out. Running around, performing. It does have that awkwardness. I like that they use Jack Nicholson's son for it, who does a very good...
I feel a little bad. They asked Parker Finn and he said, well, I cast him because he's Jack Nicholson's son and not for his ability to act or anything specific.
But it's a necessity homage. We all have seen The Shining. We know what they're going back. But I like that it's not going to go bad. It's almost like a noir. It's not going to get better.
Yeah. Well, and going back to things I think... that it were overdone, I guess, in this film is I do think there is a furthering of the mythology, kind of, in the second film here, where we're introduced to a character played by Peter Jacobson for fans of House.
I would agree with you. There's no advancement of the mythology.
Well, he gives ideas. He gives like, okay, I think this is how it's going to work, and then we're set to believe that there might actually be an outcome that works for everyone involved. And I think the way in which he goes away, he comes back a couple other times, but the way in which they deal with this kind of twist, turn, reveal ending really was unsatisfying to me because it felt like it was kind of negating a lot of the good of what had come at that point.
There's a little bit of collapse on its own weight at the third ending where they want to crunch it all together and we just say, well, it's hallucination.
Yeah. Where I would have liked to have seen an alternative ending to this film that sets up a third film even better. You know?
Yeah. And I think where you're going, you didn't have to really go there. You could have ended at the Pizza Hut. That would have been fine.
I think so. That's what I completely agree with. And maybe even giving it like one last attempt at kind of subverting expectations twice. Like it's almost like when you wake up in a dream and then you realize that you're also asleep still and you have to wake up twice. I would have liked to have seen something like that. Yeah. But yeah, the film's ending I felt kind of overplayed its hand. It kind of fumbled across the finish line. But there's the final moments that I thought worked really well. So again, it's that mixed bag of I think some things are done better, but some things are done worse.
I agree.
I think the movie is shot incredibly. I think the score is...
Acting is... Yeah.
The score is different this time around, but it kind of builds upon themes, you know? Yeah. And one thing I'll say, too, is Naomi Scott's singing on stage performance was great. And part of my wanting to celebrate that is I feel like the songs that she sings in this film feel like they are songs that could be playing on the radio. Not specifically ones I would listen to, but ones I would hear on the radio and be like, that's a real song.
Yeah, that's one criticism I have for Trap.
Yeah, because I was thinking about that with Trap. I don't inherently dislike the Shyamalan's daughter who played the character up on stage. I just didn't think that those songs sounded like they would be songs that would be Taylor Swift level. These ones kind of sounded like they could have fit into that world. Yeah. And so I appreciate that, because I'm not really a big music guy, and if I can tell that your music doesn't seem real, it probably isn't a good sign for everyone else.
And we get another horror movie with Drew Barrymore in it.
Yes. Yes, we do. Yeah. About as much time as Scream. So.
Right, yes, yeah. So overall, it's kind of a mixed bag. There's some great things about it, but also I feel like the script is a little overcooked. And there's some things that you have to work on. Get the endings. Get your fixture endings.
Yeah, this feels to me like pizza horror, where it's like there's no such thing as really bad pizza. There's no such thing as really bad
you're
horror.
Overboard. Yeah, there's too much on there.
You know, I can still really enjoy what's happening in this film. I know that I also kind of prefer the original one as well. But for what it is, it was a fun time at the movies. Yeah, you know, there's a couple things I would change about it, but it's fun. It's a good time.
It's not advancing the world of horror cinema. It's a what you want.
Yeah.
Popcorn horror film.
But when I left the first film, I remember thinking to myself, this could be an interesting franchise. And when I left this film, I said, this can still be an interesting franchise. Like, there's places to go with this.
You just have to,
mythology.
everybody has, the villainy has to, you have to poke some kind of weakness to it.
Yep.
And they haven't figured out what you want to do with it. It's too overpowering. And when you get
That's the thing is, if we had some sort of weakness discovered in this film, then that gives you the edge.
Yeah.
To like want to go into a third film, but as it stands,
Can you tell we've been to writers' workshops? Yeah.
Well, you can tell though, coming out of the first film, going into the second film, I always think about horror stuff you could probably watch like in an evening. Like I could pair the two Beetlejuice films together in an evening and have a good time.
Yeah.
If I was watching these two back to back, they're kind of the same story in a little bit too much of a way, where it's not as appealing unless that now the third film would have to like give me something new. That's what I want.
Right. So, what do you think of our assessment of Smile 2?
Yeah. Did you like it more than the original Spile or less?
I kind of do.
I think I'm a little bit less, but I can see why people like it more. Does that make sense? This is going to be a flip of the coin for a lot of people, and I think that's okay. Yeah. It's not going to win over new or people who weren't fans of the original in my book, though. I don't think this is something that's like, oh, now I like it.
No, like I said, it's not going to advance the world of horror cinema, but you're going to get what you want. Yeah,
so let us know your thoughts on the film down below. Where would you like to see a Smile 3 go? We'd be interested in hearing your thoughts on that as well. You can also check out more of my film reviews. I'm still doing 31 horror film reviews over in the month of October, including an unboxing of a box set that Paramount sent me, Paramount Scares Volume 1, which actually has Smile on 4K. So if you want to see what that looks like on the inside, go ahead and check out that video over there, and you can find other film reviews at gofilmreviews.com.
Smile on 4K. And you can find my show at St. Paul Filmcast, anywhere you find podcasts, and new episodes should be coming up in the next few weeks.
Nice.